to buy, who are you? You work at Google, right? So basically every day you have to buy your food because you eat in the cafeteria 3 meals a day, and you never leave the company. So what this says is that if the cafeteria had a 10% sale one day, you would suddenly increase your consumption that day by 67% and consume that much less the next day. Or not that much less, but that much more. Again, this is implausible, right? That can't be right. So what that says is neither of those earlier explanations can explain this plausibly. Can beta delta explain the results? Well, of course they can, or I wouldn't be standing here. Okay. So if you go back to the log C assumption, then what you get is that you estimate a beta of 0.96 is the best guess of beta. You know what the daily delta, best guess of daily delta is. It's 1 because this is a daily delta. And what you get is that the model fits the data very well, explains the data well. Okay. So again, this is an example of a horse race between models, and the beta delta does a much better job. It wins the horse race. Okay. Question for you to consider. This is somewhat tangential, but to me it's very interesting. Why is this estimate of beta so much higher than we've seen before? So and there's another study that I could show you that is really interesting around this and sort of points towards a possible answer. So one possibility is that the level of temptation is different across goods. Okay, is that beta is in some sense context specific, and not that some goods are more tempting than others. I guess that's what I'm saying. But the level of self-control is different, right? So that there are some things where I just don't have the ability to resist any given level of temptation, and other things where I'm more able to resist the same level of temptation. Different goods, different situations. The other, which for me just intuitively seems like the more likely answer, because I don't know about you, but I have a very low beta when it comes to food. Yesterday, the miracle of yesterday was that I ate a bag of Russell Stover's sugar-free chocolate pecan caramel crunches in 2 sessions and not just one. My idea is that perhaps people exert more willpower when survival is on the line. Okay? So if you're very low income, food is a pretty precious commodity. And my idea is this. Beta, in some sense, incorporates, as we said at the beginning of all this, it incorporates, there's this future time perspective idea, but it incorporates both how tempted you are, and also willpower, right? These things are related, but they're not the same thing. So you may be very tempted to overspend your food stamps at the beginning of the month, but if you recognize that your survival or your children's health is on the line, you may simply choose to exert more willpower, which may very well leave you with less willpower elsewhere in your life, to overcome the problem. We can't tell the difference when we look at beta, right? So a good reason to think that beta might differ from one situation to another. Okay, policy and normative implications. First, I want to convince you that this actually matters. And I'm sorry, I may become a little bit moralistic here. So this is called caloric sequencing. There's actually quite a lot of studies of the health impacts of this. Here's one of them. It's on DSpace. So suppose you have diabetes. If you have diabetes, it means that you have to take insulin to control your blood sugar, right? Pancreas produces insulin. When you eat sugar, the pancreas shoots insulin into your bloodstream. The insulin turns the sugar into stuff that you can use, takes it out of your bloodstream, and you're happy. Diabetes is your pancreas stops doing that effectively, so you have to take insulin. Now, if you're on insulin, and you keep your insulin dose constant, because why wouldn't you? That's the same and normal thing to do. And then you lower your caloric intake significantly, all of a sudden your sugar level crashes and you have what's called hypoglycemia, not enough sugar, okay? Does that vary over the course of the month for low-income people? Of course it does. So the Seligman went and got data on hospital admissions for hypoglycemia in California over a 9-year period. She went, and this data set has a ton of information in it. She defined low income as anyone in the bottom decile in that data set, which turned out to be $29,000 a year in 2008, which is usefully and surprisingly close to the cutoff for food stamps. And what she found was that hypoglycemia admissions were 27% higher in the 4th week of the month than the 1st week. Medically, it's very hard to imagine why that would be true unless it had something to do with your food consumption. Okay, and there's absolutely no effect for non-low-income individuals. And I didn't say high income because the top 90% of the income distribution is not necessarily high income. But basically, you have to be so low income that you're likely to be on food stamps, or at least of the population that could be on food stamps. What does it cost society? Well, of course, there's the short-term pain and suffering of the individuals. What is it? I went on Wikipedia. What does it say? Cold and pale skin, numbness around the mouth, apprehension, heart palpitations, emotional outbursts, hand tremors, mental cloudiness, dilapidated pupils, dilated pupils, sweating, fainting. Well, faint at the wrong time when things are bad. I was on a bus once when I was in high school, and the driver had this happen, and he basically fell asleep at a red light with his foot on the gas, and we drove a block and a half out of control and drove through quite a lot of really quite hard things. That's diabetes not well controlled. So that's fainting and mental confusion. So could go from mild to severe. $1,200 cost per admission, just the healthcare, which is avoidable, much of which is paid for by taxpayers. And then there's the fact that if you allow yourself to have these episodes, it increases the likelihood of future episodes. And this is just one measurable consequence of reduced caloric intake. And that's for adults, and probably impacts are higher on children in the long term. So that's one thing. That's one reason why we think this might matter for policy purposes. And I stuck in this externality, right? Because no matter how libertarian you are, you should care about externalities. There's a disproportionate impact on children and minorities. Okay? 72% of SNAP recipients are in households with children. That's a big part of the point of SNAP. 42% of those children within SNAP experience food insecurity, which is defined as consistent access to adequate food is limited by lack of money or other resources at times during the year, in this case during the month. And I say reassuringly the percentage for adults is higher, which means to say people seem to be putting the food in their children's mouths first. 2.5 times more prevalent among minorities than whites. So for lots of reasons we might think that this is not a lovely thing to have happening in our society. Here's what I consider to be an arguably non-ideological statement. If this doesn't bother you, something is wrong. Okay? You don't get to ignore suffering just because you're an economist. Here's what economists tend to do, and later today, if I get to it, I'm going to show you a really egregious example. An economist says, look, for the purposes of convenience and as an intellectual exercise, I'm going to write down a rational model, and then I'm going to extract sort of interesting results from that model. Here's how people would behave in response to certain policy shifts, et cetera, et cetera. Then, conveniently, that model is going to spit out a normative measuring stick, right? Willingness to pay for things and consumer surplus. And then I'm suddenly going to come along and I'm going to say, aha, certain policy choices are going to maximize the normative measuring stick I got, which is consumer surplus. Therefore, that must be good. Okay, so here's what you just did. You assumed rationality, and what you're able to conclude from your model is that rationality is a good thing, and that if people are rational, you should leave them alone to do the right thing, which maybe you didn't need an economist to tell you. Here's the thing that you don't do if you're not an economist. You don't then say, well, for the sake of convenience, I've assumed rationality, therefore what's best for society is libertarianism. Right? Libertarianism may be a perfectly valid position, but not for that reason. Right? If the reason you're a libertarian is because someone told you in an undergraduate economics class that under an assumption of rationality, no government intervention is the best policy, you need to be able to go back to that person, no matter how senior they are, how close to earning a Nobel Prize, and say, but people aren't rational, so I'm not going to take the conclusions of your rational model as a foundation for a political position or a policy recommendation. The fact of the matter is that people aren't rational, it causes harm. The fact of the matter is, people aren't rational, and it causes harm. And then the question you have to ask yourself is it as an approach to organizing a society, is it a better idea to treat people the way that would be good for them if they were rational, and just let them suffer the consequences of not being rational? Or is it a better idea to take people as they are, right, given that these are preference parameters that apply to the entire population? Nobody isn't present biased. Everyone's present biased. We've been present biased since we were lizards. Do you take the population as it is and ask yourself, what kind of society do I want to live in? Okay? Now, you might say, who cares? I want to live in a gated community and paddle my canoe around in the fountain that they provide me with when I'm not getting blasted in the clubhouse, which is fine, and then you get to ignore everybody else. But sorry, I know that. Okay, so I'm just going to do this because it's part of why I got a PhD, so that I can say things like this to influence young minds. I'm actually quite an idealist. I do not consider myself to be a left-wing idealist, but I consider myself to be sort of a. I want to believe there's hope for the human race. It used to be the case that Americans thought of America as a beacon to the world, and then you want to ask yourself, beacon of what? For the what is 40? What is 87? 89 minus 45? 44 years of the Cold War? The answer was the United States was supposed to be convincing evidence that democracy created better outcomes for society than dictatorship. Okay, and if you're Vladimir Putin, who for all intents and purposes is a dictator, and spends his time having collegial conversations with people like Bashar al-Assad, and before he died, Hugo Chavez, who are straight-up dictators. Well, okay, Vladimir Putin's a straight-up dictator. What you do is you say, let's look at the rate in America, the rate of hunger and malnutrition in the United States. Let's look at the rate of people not being on health insurance and having really terrible health outcomes. Let's go and tell our people that in the United States, over the last 15 to 20 years, the average life expectancy of poor women without a high school diploma has gone down. Okay? And then let's go and point to all of the many benefits of our wonderful benign dictatorship. I'm fine with the possibility that some of you are sitting here rolling your eyes at this point. I actually believe that the well-being of the human race depends upon democracy actually looking manifestly better than dictatorship to the citizens of dictatorships. Okay? My own opinion, this is not helping. This is not helping. So what I want to do as a behavioral economist, as a human being, is what I want to do as a human being is I want to say, let me take the planet the way it actually is, let me take the species the way it actually is, let me take how people respond to circumstances the way it actually is, and let me try to use public policy to shape the environment, the decision-making environment, in such a way that people wind up with, on balance, better outcomes that I'm happier living in and don't need to go and retreat behind into my gated community, and I can be proud of as an American and say, no, really, you should do something about Vladimir Putin and I'll help you. I'm a behavioral economist because those behavioral economists are the economists who are taking that approach, who are saying, let's take human beings the way they really are. Let's actually go and find out how human beings actually make decisions. Let's build models that bake that into the math correctly instead of making wrong assumptions about rationality. Then let's go and draw the policy conclusions that we get from those corrected models. Okay? And we may wind up with a more desirable society. Okay, I'm done. You can switch your television back on. Emergency warning is over. Okay. The next question becomes, okay, do you as a behavioral economist actually have something to offer that might make society better off in this particular case or any other? Okay? The thing that people actually have come up with, and it didn't take behavioral economists to come up with this, but it takes a behavioral economist to convince anybody to listen, is the idea of dispersing benefits weekly instead of monthly. Right? If you get your benefits weekly, you just can't splurge as much. You just can't. Right? So you might try, but if this is what you do over the course of the month, and I split your benefits up like this, right, you're going to wind up doing this. And it's just not going to be as bad for you or your kids. Right? It's kind of a simple fix. We have the technology. Right? It's like the $6 million man. We have the technology. Yeah. Increasing whose costs? Well, so if you believe there's a cost to sending a bunch of electrons through the internet 4 times a month instead of 1 time a month, you should work for the banking industry, who try to justify, sort of like $25 fee for processing an insufficient funds charge. When it was actual little vouchers that you had to tear apart like stamps, I would have bought that explanation. But part of the idea here is that with technology, we can come up with interesting new approaches to solving these kind of problems that we couldn't previously. I don't think this is going to increase the cost by much. Yeah? Do you? Maybe I'm wrong. Don't go work for the banking industry. That's a bad reason.
Are there other costs associated with it though? Because somebody has to go to the grocery store 4 times a month instead of 1 time. There's going to be transportation costs. And also, if you can spend all your money for the whole month, there might be like economies of scale with buying stuff.
That's the one argument against this. The one argument that people make against this is that it makes it harder to buy in bulk. And it makes it harder to reap the efficiencies of scale of driving a long distance, for example, to a bulk discount store and stocking up for the month. So then the question would be, can we come up with a clever way to make that possible? And my guess is that there would be a way to say, look, here's a chunk of money to go and do that with, and the rest we're going to stretch out over the. But that's right, and that's something that would have to be taken into consideration. Setting that aside for a moment, now let's think about the question of actually normative evaluation. Suppose we did this. Would naives be better off? This goes back to the question with the deadlines, right, on the assignments. We're assuming here that people are naive. They don't know that they're making this ridiculous mistake over and over. This damaging mistake. So we're going to make them better off by being basically paternalistic and telling them and sort of requiring them to do a better job. Sophisticates, we have no reason to think that they're any different. And what about people who are time consistent? Well, this speaks to your concern that maybe people who are time consistent don't have this dip and are just making use of their monthly benefits to go and save money at a big box discount store. So we might make them worse off. The net effect is an empirical question, right? We can't, on the basis of some, we can't just make a blanket conclusion the way we can if we assume that everybody's time consistent. Right? If everybody's time consistent, we get to say, listen to us, we're economists, we understand human behavior. The best thing to do is to just give these people all their money once every 17 years. The net effect is actually an empirical question, and it depends upon the distribution of types, right? So the change in utility, and we're going to come back to this after the midterm. The total change in utility is going to be, it's a typical weighted sum. It's the proportion of naives times the change in utility for naives, plus the proportion of sophisticates times the change in utility for sophisticates, plus the proportion of time consistence multiplied by the change in utility for time consistence. And there are situations in which it's not unreasonable to think that you could actually make some headway trying to figure out some of these numbers, or at least putting bounds on what they could be. We'll come back to that later. So again, it depends on the distribution of types. That's the P's, the proportions, and what the actual impact is on time consistence. Now, if we could probably go out and say, well, how many food stamp recipients actually do go and get these economies of scale? And we might discover that actually that's not such a common phenomenon. And then we could say, well, that suggests that this isn't really a very big number. And then we might feel like we're on firmer ground, saying, let's do this. If it does hurt the time consistence, it won't be by much. Again, this is all stuff we're going to come back to in the next section of the class, or after the midterm. And then we also have, of course, we have to think about the effect on personal liberty, because not all decisions should be based on economists' normative evaluations. And then this is my little humorous follow-up. You don't get to ignore liberty just because you happen to be a behavioral economist. Because there are a lot of people who feel like you're a behavioral economist, you're basically just coming up with a lot of complicated excuses for telling other people what to do. Arguably, this is a relatively non-restrictive policy, right? We're giving you free money, for goodness sakes. All we're going to do is just give you a little nudge in the direction of spending it more wisely. Okay? Whether you think that that's a major constraint on personal liberty is a matter for personal opinion. Okay? The other thing we could do is we could say, let's just make the weekly disbursement optional, and that would solve your problem completely. And now what we've done is we've created a commitment device in some sense for sophisticates. And whether or not that's going to be particularly effective is going to depend again on the distribution of types. It's only going to be useful for sophisticates. Okay? Okay. So that was a complete failure to get through the material quickly, which I will try to compensate for somehow. So now we're going to start the next chunk of the class. Yeah, let me intro it after this. We need a mental break from listening to me. An eye clicker question. A friend has asked your advice about buying a new scooter. You know how I feel about scooters. Your friend has been quite satisfied with their current scooter, which they've had for a while, but the new model has A, a more comfortable seat, B, a more powerful engine, and if you want to shine your paint job, and your friend is excited about these improvements, is thinking about spending a significant part of their student loan on the new scooter. What is your advice? Sounds like a bad idea. Scooter's a scooter, you won't notice the difference. Go ahead, you'll enjoy riding the scooter more, and it feels good to own something you're excited about. C, maybe not. You will enjoy riding the scooter more, but the excitement you're feeling will fade. Okay, 3, 2, 1. What do you got? All right. Maybe, maybe not. All right. You know that's my answer. If you're an economist, so Harry Truman once very famously said, I want a one-handed economist. Right? Because economists always say, well, on the one hand, on the other hand. So he said, somebody give me a one-handed economist. But here, most of you are saying, see, and I would too. What does it depend on? Yeah. Present bias as to, in what sense? Whether or not you sort of have self-control problem of wanting to buy the scooter right now because it's going to pay off right away? Right, right. There you go. Yeah. A raise is a raise and then it's your paycheck. I'm supposed to repeat that for the people watching at home. Yeah, in the back. How quickly your reference point changes. Was that what you were going to say too? Fine, sure. The question then becomes, and this is something where experience really can help. The question is that we're going to look at for the next section of the class, just today and Thursday, is do you predict, right? So making the right choice about whether or not to buy a scooter that's going to give you this exciting new feeling of having a nicer scooter than your last one, making the right choice doesn't require that you not have reference-dependent preferences. It does require that you predict how quickly your reference point is going to adjust. Okay? So the topic here is state-dependent preferences and rational expectations. And I talked about the idea of state-dependent preferences briefly when we were looking at reference point adaptation. And I said, look, you're going to wind up with these indifference curves that cross depending upon your endowment. And the question, in order to answer the question, is this irrational? We have to sort of answer the question, does being given a mug constitute a legitimate state change, right? And so that's what we're going to do here. Is we're going to talk about situations where we want to assume that changes in preferences from one state to another are valid and legitimate. And the question we're going to then ask is, do people have rational expectations about those changes? Okay, that's the topic. So the assumption we've made so far is that the instantaneous utility function is the same in every period, which we call the stationarity assumption, right? The little u, this thing, for example, little u of c, is the same from one day to the next, from one period of your life to the next. In fact, of course, our preferences change over time in 3 broad categories. We experience short-term fluctuations, some of which are extremely important. The changes in physiological state, such as how hungry you are, or your state of addictive craving, if you're an addict. I can tell you that my preferences for all kinds of things, including consciousness and other human beings, change depending on whether or not I'm caffeinated. Psychological state, depression, right? So people's willingness to commit suicide varies enormously based on their state of depression, which may depend on something as simple as the light level. Road rage, your preference between pulling out a pistol and firing it at somebody's front tire rather than going to jail may vary depending upon your state of road rage and your circumstances, location, whether something we probably might not care about that much psychologically, but it's going to turn out to be one of the places we can identify misprediction of state-dependent preferences. Then there are long-term systematic changes. One of the ones I care about most is changes that are caused by your past behavior, habit formation, acquired tastes. Right? So, for example, if you are faced with the choice between reading a book and watching television, the choice initially should be partly informed by the knowledge that if you spend time reading books, gradually A, it becomes easier to focus and concentrate and read. B, you gradually enjoy them more. You learn, you've read Jane Austen, and so now that makes you enjoy Jane Eyre better. Something like that. So that you develop acquired tastes, which are a lot like habits. If you go to the gym enough times, gradually you're going to start really enjoying it. You're going to want to go to the gym. And if you don't predict these things correctly, you're less likely to invest in the activity that actually requires some initial period of habit formation or taste acquisition. And then there are changes caused by maturation, like changes in risk preference and changes in your, the desirability of physical activity. And then there's adaptation, which we'll talk about hopefully quite a bit, getting used to a new reference point, which could mean I've gotten a raise, but I've gotten used to it. It could mean I've gotten a mug and gotten used to it. It could mean I've moved into a fancy neighborhood and I've gotten used to it. All kinds of things that could affect your reference point. Okay, so what we saw way back at the beginning of the semester was a situation where effective